Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share buttons to stay connected. Your support means a lot and helps this channel grow. So sit back, relax, and let's get started with today's video. The 1978 Australian 10-cent coin is a standard circulating decimal coin first issued as part of Australia's decimal currency series introduced in 1966. The 1978 pieces follow the long-running, classic design pairing the sculpted young bust of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse with Stuart Devlin's superb lyrebird on the reverse. The obverse uses Arnold Machin's widely used effigy of the Queen, the Machin portrait that appeared on many Commonwealth coins in the 1960s-1970s, showing Her Majesty in three-quarter profile facing right with the legend around the rim. The reverse bears Stuart Devlin's elegant depiction of the superb lyrebird, Menure Navahollandier, perched with its characteristic ornate tail feathers fanned, a design chosen by the Royal Australian Mint for the 10-cent denomination and retained on standard circulation issues for decades. Physically, the 1978 10-cent is a copper-nickel coin, 75% copper, 25% nickel, with a mass of approximately 5.65–5.66 grams. A diameter of 23.60 mm, a reeded milled edge, and a typical thickness close to 2.0 mm. These specifications were chosen so the coin would match the shilling's dimensions and feel when Australia decimalised. In 1978 the coin was minted at Canberra for circulation in large numbers. The struck mintage for the 10-cent that year is recorded in public guides as about 48.4 million pieces, which makes ordinary 1978 circulated examples common and inexpensive in typical circulated grades. Because large numbers were produced and the coin's composition is a hard copper-nickel alloy, most surviving coins show normal circulation wear, softening of high points on the lyrebird and smoothing on the Queen's portrait, and truly high-grade uncirculated or mint roll examples, especially those from original mint pack rolls or presentation sets, are the ones that typically carry a premium for collectors. The Royal Australian Mint also included the 10-cent in proof and uncirculated sets in 1978. These set coins are struck with specially prepared dies and finishes and often appear in collector catalogs and museum collections, so if you find one in its original packaging with mint paperwork it's worth more than a stray loose piece. As for identifying a genuine 1978 10-cent, check the alloy copper-nickel, not the reddish color of bronze, the reeded edge, the Machin effigy with clear inscription, Elizabeth II Australia 1978, on the obverse, and the Stuart Devlin initials on the reverse near the lyrebird. Weigh and measure borderline examples 5.65–5.66 grams, 23.6 mm, because striking blanks from other years or foreign planchettes can cause small anomalies. Collector interest is mostly modest. There are no widely documented, consistently high-value date-specific rarities for the standard 1978 10C, unlike certain other dates or denominations, so value depends primarily on grade. Circulated examples are typically worth only face value or a small collector premium, while brilliant uncirculated, mint roll, or proof examples command higher prices depending on market demand. For storage and care, avoid harsh cleaning, which can damage the coin's natural patina and reduce value. Instead, store coins in inert holders or albums, control humidity, and keep them out of direct sunlight to prevent toning or corrosion. Finally, for anyone researching or selling, good references include the Royal Australian Mint's historic notes on the 10-cent design, major numismatic catalogs and price guides which list the 1978 specifications and mintage, in museum or auction records for observed prices on high-grade examples. These will give the best current market context if you want to know what an uncirculated 1978 10C might fetch today. The 1993 Australian 5-cent coin is a small but iconic piece of Australia's decimal currency, carrying both everyday utility and steady interest among collectors. Physically it measures 19.41 mm across, weighs 2.83 grams and is struck in cupro-nickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel, with a milled, reeded edge, dimensions and alloy that have been consistent for the denomination since its introduction with decimalization in 1966. The reverse tails of the coin features the long-standing Stuart Devlin echidna design, a compact, detailed depiction of Australia's spiny monotreme which has adorned the 5-cent since the decimal series debuted, and the obverse heads carries the third portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by sculptor Raphael Macluf, the effigy used on Australian coinage from 1985 through the 1990s. The 1993 pieces therefore pair Devlin's classic reverse with Maklouf's regal, diademed portrait on the face, a combination typical of circulation strikes of that era. In terms of production and availability, the 1993 circulation strike was produced in very large quantity, commonly reported around 93.8 million pieces, so while the coin is common in everyday change, collectors still pay attention to mint state examples, condition, and any subtle die or strike varieties, for example the small SD, reverse punch variety size distinctions that appear in listings covering the Maklouf-Devlin era. The Royal Australian Mint Canberra was the primary producer for the year and also issued proof and uncirculated set examples. Proof pieces and mint set coins from 1993 are struck to a higher finish and are issued in far smaller numbers, making them the items most likely to carry a premium above face value. From a metal and handling point of view, the cupro-nickel composition gives the 5C its silvery look and makes the coin durable in circulation. The coin is not strongly magnetic and resists heavy wear well given its small size, but like all low-value coins it often shows high circulation wear and the eye appeal, and thus collector value depends heavily on strike sharpness, luster, and the presence-absence of contact marks or rim nicks. Numismatic interest in the 1993 5-cent centers on condition and context rather than rarity. Uncirculated or graded examples, especially in top numeric grades from independent grading services, and the proof strikes are where collectors concentrate. Prices for circulated 1993 5C remain at or near face value in most markets, while uncirculated pieces, mint set singles or certified high-grade examples command modest premiums and proof specimens can be more valuable in proportion to their limited numbers. Historically, the denomination itself is notable. Introduced with decimal currency on 14 February 1966 to replace the pre-decimal sixpence, the 5-cent has retained Devlin's echidna reverse ever since, making the design one of the longest-running reverse motifs on Australian coins. This continuity means the 1993 issue sits squarely within a familiar visual and cultural tradition, representing typical late 20th century Australian circulating coinage, ordinary to find in pocket change, but a useful piece for type collectors, date sets, and mint set completists. If you're assessing a 1993 5-cent for resale or grading, check for full luster on the fields and devices, sharp details in the echidna's spines and Maklouf portrait, and avoid pieces with heavy rim nicks or surface abrasions. Also note that errors or unusual die varieties, which do occur from time to time across any year of minting, will usually be documented in specialist catalogs and can raise the coin's interest and value significantly if authenticated. In short, the 1993 Australian 5C is a very common circulation coin by mintage but still an appealing and historically continuous design element in Australia's decimal series, simple in appearance, durable in composition, and of most interest to collectors when found as high-grade circulation survivors, mint uncirculated set pieces, proofs, or rare die error variants. The 1995 Australian 5-cent coin is a standard circulation decimal coin that continues Australia's long-running small denomination series introduced with decimalisation in 1966. It carries the familiar echidna, short-beaked spiny anteater, on the reverse. Stuart Devlin's iconic design that has been used on the denomination since the coin's introduction, and on the obverse it bears the then-current crowned effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, with the legend, Elizabeth II Australia 1995. The obverse portrait used on 1995 circulation strikes is the Raphael David Maklouf portrait, the crowned head facing right that was used on many Commonwealth coinages from the early 1980s through the 1990s. The coin's physical specifications are small and light, a copper-nickel 75% copper, 25% nickel composition, a mass of approximately 2.83 grams, a diameter of 19.41 mm and a thickness around 1.30 mm, with a reeded milled edge. These dimensions make the 5C immediately recognizable in hand and non-magnetic in basic tests, with a typical metal up-pointing arrow alignment. In terms of minting and production, the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra was the primary producer of circulating 5-cent coins by this period, with occasional production elsewhere only in earlier years, and 1995 was a high mintage year. Available mint records and specialist catalogs list a circulation mintage on the order of 84 to 85 million pieces coins for circulation, plus a small number struck to proof or for collector sets, figures that explain why surviving 1995 5-cent coins are extremely common in most grades. Because of that high output and the coin's ongoing use, most 1995 5C pieces are only worth face value to the everyday holder. Circulated examples are abundant and typically sell for only small premiums, if any, over face value, while uncirculated or mint set examples, and specially packaged proofs, command modest collector interest and slightly higher prices, perhaps a few dollars in typical online marketplaces, depending on condition, whether the finish is brilliant uncirculated or proof, and the buyer's location and demand. For collectors, the important factors that can raise value or state of preservation grades such as Mississippi 65 and above attract more attention. Any unusual minting errors, double strikes, off-center strikes, planchette defects or strong die clashes, or if the coin is a scarce proof strike. However, the 1995 5-cent is not generally listed among the high-value. Key date: rarities for Australian small change. It remains, by and large, a plentiful issue that is useful for date sets, educational displays, and low-cost collecting. In terms of visual details, the echidna on the reverse is shown in a naturalistic pose with spines and body shape clearly rendered and the numeral 5, or the word 5 cents, depending on the die, placed prominently. Devlin's tiny initials appear near the design in many strikes. The obverse Makhlouf portrait shows the Queen wearing the King George IV state diadem, a diadem with floral emblems, and the lettering and date on well-struck examples are crisp, but on heavily circulated pieces the hair and diadem detail will be flattened by wear. If you are documenting or selling a 1995 5-cent coin, photograph it clearly, obverse and reverse, with scale, note whether it's circulation, brilliant uncirculated, or proof, and describe any visible contact marks, rim nicks, or toning. For higher value aims, consider having the coin professionally graded by an established service so buyers can be confident of grade, though for most examples the cost of grading outweighs potential premium because the base value is low. For historical or educational narration, you can place the 1995 5C in the broader story of Australian decimal coinage, introduced the 14th of February 1966, describing how the echidna design and the successive effigies of Elizabeth II tie the small coin to national identity and to numismatic practice in Commonwealth countries.